Have you ever spoken and still felt invisible? You try to say the right things. You try to be interesting, smart, engaging, someone worth listening to, and yet somehow people don't really pay attention. Your words don't land. You feel like you're talking but not being heard. And then there's someone else. They barely say anything, just a few calm, simple sentences, and suddenly everyone listens. So you start wondering, what do they have that you don't? What if the problem isn't that you don't say enough, but that you're trying too hard to be heard? If you've ever felt this, comment un, because what you're about to understand will completely change how people see you and how you see yourself. Most people believe attention comes from expression, from speaking more, explaining more, proving more. They think that if they just say enough, people will finally understand them. But the truth is, the more you try to prove your value, the less people feel it, because value is not something you explain. It's something people sense, and the moment you start chasing attention, you lose the very thing that creates it. But this isn't about becoming quiet. This isn't about saying nothing. It's about something deeper, something most people never develop. Presence. Presence is not what you say. It's what people feel before you even speak. You've met people like this before. They don't dominate conversations. They don't try to impress. They don't force energy. But when they speak, people listen, not because they are loud, but because they are grounded. Most people speak to be validated. Powerful people speak from certainty. And people can feel that, but how do you actually build that? It starts with something simple, and often overlooked: curiosity. Most people don't listen. They wait. They wait for their turn to speak, to respond, to bring attention back to themselves. But when you shift from trying to be interesting to making others feel interesting, everything changes. Imagine someone is talking to you about their life, their struggles, their story. Instead of thinking about what to say next, you pause, you look at them, and you say, "Tell me more about that." Simpler, but powerful, because now you're not competing, you're connecting, and people don't remember what you said, they remember how they felt around you. Even the Stoics understood this. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." But most people live the opposite way. They speak twice as much as they listen, and then wonder why they are not heard. But this only works if it's real, because people can feel the difference between genuine curiosity and hidden insecurity, and that leads to something even deeper. Honesty. Most people are afraid of saying, "I don't know." They think it makes them look weak, unsure, not good enough. So they pretend, they guess, they talk around the truth, but in doing that, they lose trust. Because when you say, "I don't know," something unexpected happens. People relax. There's no pressure, no performance, just honesty. And honesty is rare. When you admit what you don't know, every word you say after that becomes more real, more grounded, more believable. You're no longer trying to appear perfect. You're choosing to be real, and real is what people trust. But even trust is not enough. There's something deeper that creates real connection: empathy. When someone opens up to you, most people immediately try to fix it. They give advice, solutions, answers. But people don't always want solutions. They want to be understood. So instead of fixing, you say something simple. That sounds hard. And suddenly, everything softens. Because you're not correcting them. You're not analyzing them. You're not trying to prove anything. You're meeting them where they are. And that creates emotional safety. And when people feel safe, they open up. And when they open up, they trust you. And when they trust you, they listen to you. That's influence, not control, not dominance, connection. But here's where it gets even more powerful, because the next level isn't about what you say, it's about what you don't say. Silence. Most people are afraid of silence. They rush to fill it. They talk to avoid awkwardness. They speak to avoid being forgotten. But in doing that, they remove all weight from their words. Because when everything is said, nothing feels important. But when you pause, when you allow silence to exist, something changes. People lean in. Attention sharpens. Your presence becomes stronger. And your next words carry weight. Silence is not emptiness. It is control. Imagine answering a question and then stopping. No over-explaining. No justification. No extra words. Just stillness. Most people will rush to fill that space. But you don't. You hold it, And in that moment, you lead the interaction without saying anything. If this resonates, because we're not done yet, there's something even more powerful than silence: recognition. Most people say, "Thank you," but that only acknowledges what someone did. There's something deeper: "I appreciate you." That acknowledges who they are. It tells someone, "I see you." And that is rare, because everyone is trying to be seen, to be recognized beyond their actions, beyond their roles. And when you give that, genuinely, you create a connection most people will never forget, not because you tried to impress, but because you chose to notice. And finally, there's the hardest part of all: boundaries. A simple word, but one most people struggle to say. No. People are afraid of losing approval, losing connection, losing opportunities. So they say yes, again and again, until they slowly lose themselves. Every yes is a trade of time, of energy, of attention. And when you give those away freely, you become available to everyone and valuable to no one. But when you say no, calmly, clearly, without guilt, something shifts. People feel your boundaries, and boundaries create respect, not force, not pressure, clarity. This is not rejection. This is alignment. And when you bring all of this together, something powerful happens: curiosity, honesty, empathy, silence, recognition, boundaries. These are not techniques. They are identity. You stop trying to be interesting, and you become someone people are interested in. You stop chasing attention, and attention starts coming to you. But this path is not easy, because it requires letting go of the need to impress, the need to prove, the need to perform. It requires you to sit in silence without anxiety, to admit you don't know without fear, to listen without waiting to speak, to say no without guilt. And this is where everything changes, because the moment you stop performing, you start becoming. You were never meant to be the loudest voice in the room. You were meant to be the one people listen to. When you finally choose to speak, if this changed how you see yourself, comment 1. And subscribe for more content on self-mastery, presence, and real power.